Hi, hello, and welcome to Lily's Library. So today we're going to be going through a bunch of queer book recommendations for Pride Month, so we're just going to get straight into it. So to begin with, I'm going to go through some horror book recommendations. I've got 3 of them here that I wanted to talk about. The first one is a kind of short... the first one is a lot shorter, and that is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This is a sapphic cannibalism horror that I really had a good time with. So in this, we follow our main character who has just broken up with her boyfriend or fiance, one of those two, and has moved to a new city to start a new job. And one day she goes to these farmers markets and discovers that this woman selling cupcakes and buys a cupcake, and it's the best thing she has ever eaten. And she kind of becomes instantly obsessed with this woman and these cupcakes and continuously goes back to the markets purely for them and her, and we follow them as this relationship kind of grows and the twists and turns it goes on. It is very disturbing. I know the author, she said she was very much inspired by Hannibal, so if you like that show, I think you will probably enjoy this. I haven't watched it, but it seems like the vibes are very similar. This is a really dark and disturbing and twisting read, and I had such a good time with it. It kind of reminded me of Killing Stalking in a way, but not quite. But I really enjoyed this one. It's a very quick and easy read despite being so gruesome, but it is phenomenal. Next, I've got Chlorine by Jade Song. This is more of a coming of age story than it is anything else, but we definitely have got queer representation in this and sapphic representation specifically, but we follow a young girl who is an elite swimmer at her school, and she's done swimming for ages because she's always wanted to be a mermaid, and that's the closest she could ever get. And we follow her as she kind of descends through this madness to become a mermaid, and what the kind of stress of being a high school athlete does to her, and just the dynamics and everything that happens there. It is so messed up as well and so good, and there was just a chunk of this book where my jaw was on the floor because it was just insane. I think so many people will really enjoy this one, and it's something that I think everyone needs to read. I know a lot of people do love it, but I think it deserves a lot more hype than it's already got. And then the last horror book I wanted to talk about is Monstrilio. This one is by Gerardo Samano Cordova. I really loved this one. The author actually has a new book coming out soon, but we have got lots of queer representation in this. A lot of it isn't really labelled, but we do have Killian and sapphic representation. This is told in 4 different parts at 4 different times in these people's lives. We start with following a mother who has just lost her son, and once he dies, she ends up going and carving out a piece of his lung and keeping it in a jar, and over the coming months and weeks and everything, she starts feeding it, and it slowly starts growing and turning into this creature called Monstrilio. It very much reminds me of Frankenstein in a way. It's such just a beautiful examination of grief and how that kind of carries with you throughout your life and the way it impacts everyone else involved. This is just really beautiful and really sad and heartfelt, and one of my all-time favorite reads. It's definitely more a literary horror than it is a straight-up horror, but it does have a lot of horror aspects as well. But one of my all-time favorite reads that I need everyone to pick up. From there, we're going to go into historical fiction and then romance. So the historical fiction I've got to talk about is Until the Red Leaves Fall by Ali Parker. Ali is one of my favorite authors. She's also a friend of mine, and her work is just absolutely beautiful. So this is a historical fiction. This is set in Melbourne in the 1950s, I think it is. Yeah, in the 1950s theatre world, and it is very interesting. It kind of reminded me a bit of Yellowface in some ways. Like, it's that kind of got some of those aspects and elements to it that I found to be very fascinating and like picks up on a lot of those discussions. But in this, we follow Emmy. She is Japanese Australian, and she's got a secret that she has been hiding for a long time, and that's basically about what happened to her family. Her and her family were forced to go into the Japanese internment camps during World War II that happened in Australia, and we kind of flip between present day and then her being in those camps and what that really means. And she has been working in the theatre world for a while, but not properly fully involved in it. She works with her husband, who is a famous playwright, and a lot of his best scenes are ones that were actually written by her. And one day she gets approached by a very famous actress in the Melbourne theatre world who wants to work with Emmy on a play. But that play is about Emmy's story, and it's really looking at about who can tell a story and how much that story that is so rooted in reality and someone's real experience can be twisted and turned to make it something engaging for an audience, and who really deserves to tell that, and who deserves to make those decisions and choices. It is very beautiful and infuriating in so many ways, but has one of the most satisfying endings I have ever read. It's also got a lot of queer undertones to it, and just a lot of it is very queer. Our main character, Emmy, she is bisexual, and that's just something about who she is, which I really loved how normal it was. And I really loved the queer found family aspects that were interwoven throughout this story, and the way everything wrapped together. It is just such a beautiful book. It it really taught me a lot about Australia's history that I really wasn't aware of, and definitely opened my eyes to a lot more things. So if this sounds interesting, I definitely highly recommend picking it up. Then by another Aussie author, I have got Love Unleashed by Melanie Saywood. This is a rom-com. If you love early 2000s rom-coms, this is for you. It is perfect. We follow a big and bull woman who is going to New York to actually chase her like publishing and just her dreams over there. And everything kind of goes wrong once she arrives. It doesn't work out how she expected. She ends up having to work at a dog walking business instead. And there she meets this man who tells her he can make her dreams come true. And we kind of follow her as she navigates all of this and the ride that it takes her on, and her really discovering herself and her sexuality throughout this. I don't want to go into too much detail about what happens, but she does discover that she is queer and bisexual, and it's really beautiful the way that that discovery goes about and that the discussions that we have around it. It is so beautiful and sweet, and I absolutely adore it. Mel is such an incredible author, and again, a friend of mine, but I absolutely love this book. It was one of my favorite books of the year when I read it when it came out, and it's just so incredible. Next up, I have got a historical romance, and that is A Lady for a Duke. This is by Alexis Hall. I read this a couple years ago, and I really loved it. It made me feel all the emotions. I'm not usually a fan of longer romance books, and this one is a bit long. I think it is definitely a bit on the longer side, could have maybe been a tiny bit shorter, but it did work for everything that happened. But in A Lady for a Duke, we follow Viola, who was actually presumed dead in Waterloo in a battle, and she uses that opportunity to live her life as her true self. So we follow her as she kind of navigates being trans in this world, and also reuniting with her former best friend, who has spent all these years thinking that his best friend died in the war when that kind of wasn't the case. We follow them as they reconnect and their lives grow, and that relationship blooms, and kind of navigating this newfound friendship and realizing what's actually happened. It is really heartwarming and sad at the same time. There are some very like tender and heartfelt moments in it, and lots of interesting discussions. I just really enjoyed this one. It is such a beautiful historical romance. It's something that was very outside of my comfort zone because I'm not a historical fiction fan, especially historical romance, but this one was just absolutely so beautiful. Like I said, we have got trans representation in this, and it is just something that I think so many people need to read. It really made me feel just so many different emotions. Next up, I have got a book from one of my favorite authors, and that is Party Animal. This one is by Ali K. Mulford. Now, this is book 3 in a series, but you can kind of read them at any point. It is better to read them in chronological order, but I wanted to talk about this book specifically out of this series. But all of the books that are currently out in this are queer in some way. We've got so much amazing representation in the Prickle Island Zoo series. We've got bisexual, pansexual, we've got lesbian and sapphic as well. We've got non-binary, we've got asexuality, we've got demisexuality. I think that's most of it. I think there is a bit more, but like a whole spectrum, which I absolutely love. But I wanted to talk about Party Animal specifically because it is one of the main books that is currently out that has got both characters being queer in some way. So in this, we follow Finch, who is one of the older Lachlan siblings that works and lives at the Prickle Island Zoo. She is their vet, and she lives and breathes this work, but she also lives and breathes partying. She usually ends up hooking up with the people that come and work during the summer and help out at the zoo, but she's trying to stop doing that because she's getting in a bit of shit from her family. They just want her to grow up and settle down and actually take a break from everything and find something that's comfortable in her life. And then we meet Frankie, who has just been broken up with by her fiance. She finds out that he's immediately got a new girlfriend, and she's kind of navigating her own newfound sexuality and everything that happens there. She signs up for a job on Prickle Island Zoo to be a chef there, and we follow them as they cross paths and end up fake dating for 2 completely different reasons. So Finch decides to get into the fake relationship to appease her family and make them kind of get off her back about everything and show that she can actually be in a stable relationship. Whereas Frankie is doing it to get back at her ex, who is now obviously rocked up with his new girlfriend. And this is so funny and sweet and spicy as well. I just absolutely love all of these books. Like I said, all of them are queer in so many ways. Hold Your Horses, which is the newest one. That one, we have got asexual representation as well as non-binary representation and genderqueer representation. I just love the discussions around sexuality and gender expression in all of these books. They're all just so incredible. That kind of takes me into the next book I wanted to talk about, which is Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. This one is by Ali K. Mulford as well and K.L. Morrison. They have co-authored a few books together, one that is just about to come out as well. But this is a fantasy romance. It's a paranormal romance, really. It's set in a town where it is Halloween all year round, but it obviously pops off during the Halloween season. But the townsfolk in this area are actually all monsters or witches or vampires and everything like that. So it's very fun, and I loved the exploration of it. It kind of reminds me a bit Gilmore Girls in the setting, like that very cozy autumnal town vibe, but it is just so much fun. In this, we follow Jordan, who is one of the resident witches, and her girlfriend has actually just died and she's really not coping with it, and she ends up summoning her girlfriend's spirit, who turns into a poltergeist, and they have to try and figure out what actually happened to her and uncover the truth so her soul can finally be at rest. Then we have Harlow, who has just moved to this town to work with her sister who owns the bakery there, and she's just a normal human being. She doesn't have any magical abilities, and we kind of follow them as they cross paths and they immediately kind of fall in love. It is a bit insta-lovey, but it's so well done and perfect, and I just absolutely loved just everything that happened in this book. It is so fun, and the mystery at the center of it is really entertaining and engaging. But this book is just absolutely so adorable and definitely has the perfect autumnal reads if you do want to save it for around Halloween or whenever, really. Okay, now we're going to move on to some strict fantasy and then go into sci-fi. The first one I wanted to speak about was The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This is one I read last year, I think it was, and this is a very confusing and interesting read. It's something I definitely need to be rereading. But in this, we kind of follow two warriors whose job it is to shepherd an ancient god across a broken land, and we follow them as they navigate on this journey and all the foes that they encounter along the way. But this is actually told through a play within this book. So we've got other characters that are actually witnessing this. So we jump between being with those characters that are seeing all of this unfold and uncovering how it's tied to them, as well as actually following these two warriors as they go on this journey. It is very gay, very messed up at times. This also does have cannibalism in it. So if that is not your thing, just be on the lookout for it, because it's a brief mention, but it is enough to be there. But it is just a very interesting fantasy. Like I said, it is very confusing just because of the narrative structure. So I think it is important to be clear on the way that it does kind of unfold and that we do jump between those different things. I feel like if I'd known that going into it, I would have had a better time with it, but I still really did enjoy it. It's just something that I think would make a lot more sense on a reread, but another great queer fantasy book. Next up, we've got The Final Strife by Sarah El-Arifi, which is the first book in the Ending Fire trilogy, a trilogy I just recently finished, and these books are incredible. The Battle Drum, which is the sequel to this, is one of my all-time favorite books now. It was absolutely wild, the journey it goes on. These are just incredible high fantasies. So in this, we follow three different women. They're our main cast of characters. We have got Scylla, who's our main character on this cover. She is someone that was stolen as a child and has been raised somewhere else to try and overthrow the government. We've got Anor, who is our second main character, who is on the opposite section as well. She was stolen from somewhere else and put into the keep, which is where the ruling class is. And then we have got Hassa, who is a ghosting, and she is basically one of the servants, but she is in so many places and knows so much about everything that she is just basically spying on everyone. It's very interesting. But in this world, the color of your blood determines your place in society. So Hassa, like I said, she is a ghosting. She has got clear blood. And for the clear-blooded ones, they are the servants in this world. And because of some sin that their ancestors committed centuries ago, they all have their tongues removed at birth and their hands cut off. So they have their own language which they can communicate by, but a lot of people don't even bother to learn it. We have also got the Embers, who are the red-blooded. So they are the ones at the very top. They're the ruling class. They're the wealthy. They're the ones that are in the keep where they are protected from the tide wind, which is this really strong wind and sandstorm that destroys this area. And then in the middle of it all, we've got the Dusters. Now they are your working class. They are your laborers. They have blue blood and they're not meant to have any powers. Only the Embers are meant to have powers. And we follow these women as it kind of takes them on a journey of how they all interconnect, especially Scylla and Anor, who have traded places basically because they were stolen from each other's families when they were children. So we follow them as they try and enter this Actaba. It's this competition to pick out the next rulers of this world. And we follow them as Scylla gets roped into helping train Anor to take this position she spent her entire life trying to get. And we follow them as they uncover some corruption going on and some secrets to what actually happened to the Warden's Empire, to this area where they live. It is really interesting and very queer as well. We've got sapphic representation as well as transgender representation, and it is just such an incredible story, and I love it so much. It also does a really good job of dealing with addiction. Scylla in this book, she is addicted to the substance in this world, and the way that we see her and view her and follow her on that journey is so realistic. It is very frustrating and hard to read though because of how real it is. She is not a good character to begin with, and I think that's what I love about so many of these, about all of these books, is that not all of these people are really good people, but they all go on such interesting and fleshed out journeys. It is just absolutely incredible. Now we have got something a bit lighter, and that is the Monster Girlfriend trilogy. So these are by Marie Cardno, who is a Kiwi author. These are kind of cozy sci-fi fantasy romances. They're very fun and very interesting, and in it we follow our main character, who is a mage or a magician of some sorts, and her job is to basically journey to these other realms and use her magic to open up these portals and explore them. But once she gets there, she discovers this monster that if she looks at it, she will lose her mind and start screaming like crazy anytime she looks at the monster. But she is also very attracted to that monster, and that monster is attracted to her as well. So we kind of follow them as this relationship just blooms immediately, and them trying to navigate the main character, like our human main character, not being able to look at our monster main character. And it's just very interesting and entertaining. I loved all the different storytelling aspects it uses of this. It's also got fairy tale elements throughout it, and it's just a really fun and goofy series, and I highly recommend it. This one is the omnibus version, so it's all 3 books in one. But yeah, we've got How to Get a Girlfriend When You're a Terrifying Monster, How to Get a Date with the Evil Queen, and How to Get the Girl and Not Destroy the World. But yeah, these are absolutely beautiful. This has got illustrations in it as well. But if you want a really quick and fun novellas to read, I highly recommend this trilogy. Okay, I've got 3 final books to talk about that are all sci-fis. So the first one is The Principle of Moments by Esme Jacemi Pearson. This is a highly underrated book that I need more people to pick up. If you love Doctor Who, this is just definitely something you need to read, but this is a dual POV sci-fi book. It is the first book in a series, but there is no information on when the rest of the series is going to come out or even how many books are in it. I hope we do find out soon, but I just need more people to read it so that the author and the publishers know that we do actually need more of this. Yeah, so this is a dual POV book. It's also set in 2 different timelines. So first one is in 6066, and we follow Asha, whose sister had died ages ago, and she's trying to find out what actually happened. Her planet as well is on the brink of rebellion. She herself wants to rebel and is trying to basically find her own freedom in this world where that's not a thing. And then our other character, he is from 1812. His name is Obi, and he is done with time traveling. He is a time traveler. His dad was a time traveler, and he actually got left in this different time period. And we follow him as he has this relationship blooming with the current Prince of England in that time, and then how he actually ends up crossing paths with Asha. It is really interesting. It's got a really well done use of prophecy as well. I think it is one of the few times I've actually seen it done so well, but it really just reads like a Doctor Who episode. I feel like I'm not explaining it too well, but it's just something you need to read and experience. The writing in this is absolutely so beautiful and gorgeous. It is so sweet and heartbreaking as well, and I loved seeing Asha and Obi connect and grow, and how this journey that they go on changes their lives, whether that is for the better or not. And it's just beautiful. There are some really dark moments in it as well, and it's just a very thought-provoking read. It talks a lot about not fitting in from where you're from, as well as oppression and corrupt governments. It's just a very fascinating read. Next up, I've got Road to Ruin by Hannah Lee. This is book 1 in a duology. This is a kind of climate change sci-fi fantasy. So in this, we follow Jin, who is a mage bike courier. Her job is to basically ride on her mage bike through the deserts and to these different cities and take letters to and from people, because there's only certain people that can actually make this journey because of how just fucked up the world is. There's really bad climate change, so there's always bad storms. You need to be able to have one of these bikes to cross over, otherwise you're not going to make it, and there's just so much out there that can kill you. So Jin's job is to take letters back and forth between a prince and a princess that are from these different cities, and the truth is that Jin is actually in love with both of them, and she's trying to navigate all of that. And one day she goes to take a letter to the princess and is waiting for her to reply to the prince when she comes up to Jin and says, "You need to take me to this prince right now because my father is trying to get me to marry someone else and I don't want that." So Jin has to decide whether she actually does help this princess that she is in love with, or whether she just steps out of it and lets whatever happens, happens. And this is really fun and chaotic, and we've got so many twists and turns with it. It is such a fun and fast-paced read. We've also got Dinosaur like creatures in it, which I found to be so interesting and fascinating, but it is just absolutely beautiful. This is the only time I will actually stand for a love triangle because of the way everything unfolds. I don't want to say how, but you just need to read this book because it is incredible. And then the final book I wanted to talk about is actually one of my favorite reads of this year, and that is Love Galaxy. This is book 1 in a brand new series. So this is a sci-fi romance. It's kind of like the perfect blend of the two genres, that if you're a romance reader, it's very accessible for you. If you're a sci-fi reader, it's also very accessible for you. It just blends them so well. So Love Galaxy revolves around this intergalactic dating show called Love Galaxy. In this, we follow our main character, Temmie, who is from one of the very low and impoverished countries on the very end of and outer skirts of this galaxy, and she actually ends up getting a spot on the show to try and win Prince Nix's heart. But she also ends up crossing paths with Princess Spy, who is one of the other people on this show, and we kind of see as they are trying to navigate that. But Temmie has actually been paid by Spy to stay on the show and try and be there at least until the final 3 just for Spy's brother. But Spy and Temmie can't seem to keep away from each other. We kind of follow them as this relationship starts to grow, and then the twists and turns that happen in this show, because the contestants that are going on this actually slowly end up dying, and Temmie is the one that finds the first body. So we follow them as they try and uncover the truth, while the showrunners are obviously trying to keep this a secret. All of the other contestants on this show as well are usually really high up people. Like, we've got other people that are from like other planets where their parents are the president or the ruler, or people that are just in lots of high positions. So it is not going well if they are being killed. This is just a very interesting blend of genres. I think it is done so well. It is so entertaining, but it also has a lot of great discussions around sexuality, as well as like corrupt governments and everything, because there is actually a coup that is about to happen. There is trouble boiling, and this whole show's whole job is to try and quell that trouble. But it is just such an entertaining and fun read. I'm not really a fan of reality TV shows, but I feel like if you are, you would absolutely love this. I think, like I've said before, it is just the perfect blend of sci-fi and romance. It takes so many great things from both of those genres and just meshes it together. And this is also book 1 in a brand new series, so there will be a lot more coming to it. I just love this one so much. It is absolutely incredible and such a fun and wild read. I feel like I've been rambling so much and that I can't get any proper sentences out, so I really apologize if this was a bit more incoherent than usual. I think I'm just so exhausted that it is hard to formulate proper sentences at the moment, but I hope you still enjoyed this video or got some new book recommendations to check out. But I'd be really interested to hear some queer book recommendations for you as well, so let me know your favorite under-hyped queer book that you think I should read. But yeah, that is it for this week's video. Make sure you follow me on my other social medias and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.